All right, let's move on to Wind now. So, first, going to talk about Balthier, the one of the legends, and the other two sky pirates, Vaan and Penelo. So, I'll read them all out. Vaan, 7 CP, 9k forward. He's all of these are sky pirates. Cost reduced by 1 for each wind character, and on ETB, if you cast 3, he draws a card. Balthier, 4 CP, 8k. When Balthier or any wind character enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls, deal at 3k. He has an action ability to discard a Sky Pirate and activate all characters you control, and you can do it once per turn. Penelo is a 2 CP 5k. When Penelo enters the field, choose 2 characters. If you control 2 or more Sky Pirate forwards, you activate them. So she activates 2 of your characters pretty much when you're playing her, because you probably aren't going to be playing her outside of Sky Pirates. When Penelo is put from the field into the break zone, choose a Sky Pirate of cost 3 or more in your break zone and add it to your hand. All right, so I know we talked a little bit about this, but the Vaan is probably going into mono wind just like by default. But I think the important like card to talk about is Balthier, because I think that this one's a little more like again, we talked a little bit about it off camera, but like you kind of have to build around him a little bit more. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you put them in the order that Mono Wind will like to see them, right? Like Vaan, I think it's chewing for Mono Wind decks. It has the potential to be free. It's not limited by it can only cost 1 or something. If you have a bunch of characters, he's free. He draws a card when you cast 3 or more. We all know that that's Wind's like identity for the past 10 sets or so. So Vaan for sure, Mono Wind. Balthier is a little more interesting. I think he makes me think of what Mono Wind is planning to do in the future. Obviously, he's much better if you have Vaan, because you essentially have an S ability, so to speak, where you can also discard a card named Vaan to activate it. And you can also do things like run Viera backups like Murn and the other girl, and then Fran to have like additional Sky Pirates, which also enables Penelo, right? I think out of the 3, definitely Penelo's the one where Penelo kind of like doesn't have a home. If you're playing Sky Pirates, you're playing Water Penelo. That's like the whole deck.
Yeah, right? like water wind Sky Pirates.
Yeah. If we're playing the traditional Water Wind Sky Pirates, you're playing 6 CP Vaan, you're playing 2 you're playing Water Penelo, and then Balthier just doesn't fit into that. I think you always want the other Balthier that revives a Penelo, essentially. But in Mono Wind, I could see these being played. For sure, Vaan. I don't think you're playing Mono Wind and not playing Vaan, unless I'm like horribly mistaken. I think Balthier has a lot of potential, especially because in the last few sets we've gotten a lot of, and we'll see one of them soon, a lot of very low cost, like 1 CP value forwards. So you can potentially just like dump your hand, draw cards, and kill something. So we got, Luso, Ritz from the previous set, and this set we got Niini. So I'm not a mono wind player or ice wind player. So again, people smarter than me will figure this out. But I quite like the Vaan. I think it's exactly what the deck is trying to do. I'm just interested on how the deck will evolve to the point where, okay, so what is our payoffs, right? How do we win the game after casting a billion cards, right? Bismarck is like pushed out of the game a little bit. So are we still playing Rosa, right? If we're playing these cards, I'm just, there's so much options. There's such a critical mass of free cards that at this point I don't know which ones are good. That's where I'm at for this set.
What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too. I haven't played mono wind or ice wind.
Yeah, I don't think any of us sets.
Yeah, I used to have it built back in like 14 or 15 maybe. I'm 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 high on Vaan, lower on the other two. I'm wondering in a mono wins deck, like how often are we going to get that untap on Balthier, right? Because are we playing any Sky Pirates beyond these three, or even just Vaan and Balthier?
I think you play because Mono Wind has a bunch of backup engines, right? You have the Chocobos, you have the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles backups, and another option that's less used is the Vieras. The one there's one that has EX and searches either Fran or the other one, and the other one activates Fran and the 4 CP one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is worth exploring if you have Balthier, because number one, you would have access to Fran, which is a Sky Pirate, which is you can discard for his effect. Number two, I think that Fran gets cheaper if you have Balthier.
You're talking about the 2 CP backup. I'll pull it up. The 2 CP backup that's she costs 1 less if you control Balthier.
Yes. So I think if you're playing Balthier, you're kind of encouraged to run those 3 because you're doing the same thing. You're ramping backups, right? You want to get to 4 backups as quickly as possible. And she's also a Sky Pirate that happens to have some synergy with Balthier. So it's kind of okay, maybe instead of the Chocobo package, I'll go with the Vieras.
Yeah.
And then Balthier just gets better, right? You can just discard extra friends and go, I activate all my characters.
I didn't even notice that she has a 3K on ETB too. So...
Yeah. So she works very well with him, right?
And Balthier's characters too. So if you play whatever the free win backup is, I forget, not Botanist, the other one, the one that's free if you have 3 or more backups. So you just throw down as you're ramping your backups on the one turn that you're just playing your free backups, you just deal a bunch of damage to something.
I think the best card with Balthier is definitely the last set's Ritz. 1 CP when she enters 3K, and if that thing dies, you draw a card, right? Because you can 3K, Ritz, 6K, so kill a 9K, draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 2 casts that turn, so it's pretty good. Again, I think Mono Wind is a deck that right now has so many options that it requires a dedicated person that knows the deck to optimize it, because we have so many of the same type of effects that choosing which ones we're going to go for, at least for me, is a little overwhelming because I'm not familiar enough with the deck.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like if I played Mono Wind, I'd probably be have much more to say about these. I guess the main thing that worries me about Balthier is the turn that you're storming off, you're playing Luso anyways. So that's what when I first read the ETB choose forward deal at 3K, if you play 2 cards, it's probably not killing something. But the turn that Wind storms off, you're playing Luso, right? So I guess how often is it that you're playing Wind and you only play between 3 to 4 cards and not less or more?
I think the way I see it is this is an alternative to kill things that is not Luso, right? Like an extra way to do that. If you don't have the Luso, and you can cut down to 2 Lusos, which I think a lot of the decks are doing anyway. Again, I think it's 2 different type of decks. I think this deck where you can just use Balthier to ping everything to death, and there's a deck where you have all these weenies that enable your Luso.
Mm-hmm.
I might be wrong. Again, that's my gut instinct.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Princess Sarah. Exciting card. 2CP Princess backup. Exciting. Action ability, choose a forward. Until the end of turn, it gains this forward cannot be chosen by EX bursts. But you can only use this during your main phase, obviously. She has a tap effect as well. Discard Job Princess to choose a forward, and during this turn, the next damage dealt to it becomes 0 instead. So I don't know how often that action ability will be super relevant. Sarah's a princess, right? So you can discard your excess Sarahs for this, but the main thing is win backup, searchable off of Sarah, and the action ability being not a tap ability, which feels kind of weird on a backup. Like I don't know how often they do this. You can tap Princess Sarah for wind and then also do this action ability. I think this is going to be solid for aggressive decks, aggressive wind decks. That said, I don't know what aggressive wind decks currently exist, so yeah, I'm really curious to see what you two have to say about this.
I'm actually very excited for this card in particular. So the problem that I see is wind water, where this card swings, is not existing right now.
Yeah.
But if it does, I would always consider the princess backups. We also got another princess. We won't talk about it because she's kind of weak, but there's another princess that says Sarah Mobius, I think, or something, or I don't remember which one it is. It's a 2 CP. You can buff all your characters if you have 2 princesses.
Oh.
Yeah,
so I didn't even know this card existed.
Yeah, there's another princess here. So the fact that this card turns your extra backup searchers into value, just that makes me a little bit excited. I actually want to see more of that, where it's like, all right, you have your backup searchers, and once you play one, every time you draw Sarah, like the searcher water Sarah, you're like, ugh, I don't want to see this card. But this card makes it so you're like, you know what? Maybe you can use it for a combat trick, or you can use it to prevent a board wipe or something like that. Cherry on top is that she blocks EX burst, but I'm very interested in that discard one job princess stuff. Like I want to see that with like red mages and stuff. I want more of that. So I'm looking out for these princesses in Windwater in the future.
Yeah, I didn't even, because for me it was flipped. It was like, oh, like damage dealt to a forward becomes 0. Well, it doesn't prevent like direct breaks. You only, I guess I was thinking like, oh, you run 3 Sarahs, so this turns the extra Sarahs into stuff. But I was like, maybe. But I think you've convinced me, actually.
Yeah. Think about it. You draw extra Sarahs.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, what do I mean? You pitch them for CP, right? Like,
yeah.
That's what this game is for. But now giving you an extra option to even if you don't use it, you have the option to do a combat trick, or if your opponent Susanos you, right, and you're like, no, I'm saving this or whatever. I think it's good. I think it's a decent enough effect.
Okay. What do you think, Pat? I know.
You know what I'm about to say.
I know what you're about to say.
I have a very ambitious Tifa deck that I built from the Opus 20 Tifa that attempts to get the OTK, like 7 damage in 1 turn, with the use of like the the Ice Shulk backup. Like it's like a ridiculous deck. It's like a Frankenstein. But this slots right into it. One of the biggest problems I had with that deck was that like Tifa would just die to an EX burst, or the Barret, which is giving her haste, would die to an EX burst. So this slots right in. It was using green in the backup line already, so I didn't have to like extend my colors or anything. And this, and another card we're going to talk about later on.
I know exactly what you're talking
about.
It's Ursula, spoilers.
Yeah, I'm testing both of them in the deck, and they've been working pretty well, I think.
No, that's actually exciting. I'm actually like excited for that deck now that you're mentioning that. All right.
That actually reminds me, Bart's Boko, I think, loves this card.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's because you mentioning the Tifa, like the Opus 20 version of Bart's Boko was like, post Sildra ban, made the. It's funny because the meme deck is the one that got hit the worst by Sildra's ban. But this card is like really good for that deck, I think, because you're already running Windwater, right? And then you have the Tifa as well, and like preventing your Rosa, the Rosa that like is constantly party attacking basically, is really good, I think, like preventing that from getting chosen by EX bursts. And just preventing Bart's from getting chosen as well.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm building that after.
It was like the first deck that I built when I was first getting into the game, and then I was like, "Wow, I hate this playstyle."
Thanks, I hate it. All
right. But yeah, so cool card. Always happy to see more princesses. So, all right, let's talk about Pandemonium. I think all three of us probably hate this card. I mean, this card's very good, but I think we all hate it because of the deck that it's going into.
Mm-hmm.
So 2CP summon. Select one of the two following actions. If you've cast two or more cards other than Pandemonium, you get to do both. Choose a forward of cost 5 or more, deal at 8k. And the other really important effect is search for a wind forward of cost 5 or more and add it to your hand. So this is a lock searcher. Like, this is Icewind's lock searcher now. I think, like, Icewind no longer... Well, maybe it still does. Again, I'm not an Icewind player, thank God. But, like, the Moogle package always seemed a little awkward, and the entire purpose, in my mind, again, as somebody who's not an Icewind player, was so that you could search out your locks and your, Sid Haze and whatever. And now we have a summon that just searches your lock for you. So I think this card is going to make Icewind a lot better, which, not always a good thing. Sorry, Icewind players.
Yep. The fact, I mean, this card's pretty good. So the fact that I don't think, I might be wrong, but I will say this here. I don't think there's a wind storm, quote unquote, deck that doesn't run this card. If you're on mono wind, this searches Vaan. Mm-hmm. And it allows you to run like even cards that you have cut because of room and because they're not that good in every matchup, like Bismarck and stuff like that, as one-offs, because you can search them with this thing. The fact that just casting it makes it so that lock comes into your hand already costing 2 less is insane. Mm-hmm. So like if you already have Typhon on the field, wait, it's a type Atmos. Sorry, Atmos. If you have Atmos on the field, right? This is your second cast. You untap 2 backups and you go get a lock. I don't know. I like this card quite. Yeah. I like it in the sense that I think it's powerful, especially when you run Lulu and just get it back and do it again. Mm-hmm. 8k on 5 or more is not as relevant, but I think it's also a once in a while. You think you're safe, and then your opponent loses you, and then just also kills your thing.
Yeah, because 8k is a little awkward for 5 or more.
Yeah.
With a Lulu, it kills anything.
Oh, duh. Yeah. I remember you mentioning this when this card was first revealed, and I don't know why I forgot it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I forgot it as well. The fact that you can Lulu into this.
Yeah, you immediately like you Lulu for Pandemonium, cast it, and then get lock, untap too. Like.
Yeah. So I mean, you have to have cast 2 or more to get both.
Yeah.
But it's trivial in Wind, right? Like you can do something, then Lulu into this.
It's yeah.
Build anything and search something. It's pretty good. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Search the lock, and then you can play the lock because it'll only cost 2.
Screw this stuff.
I think you mentioned every wind deck. I think because the one wind deck that I have sleeved up right now is Earthwind, and I just double checked. That doesn't play any currently. Doesn't play any like 5 CP or more backups. Forwards. I guess you could maybe play Bismarck, but I feel like that's kind of not what Earthwind is trying to do. Like it's trying to cheat out CP with Tilica and stuff. So.
Let me
but like lightning, for example, Lightning Wind really appreciates a cloud searcher.
I wait, a cloud? No. Oh yeah, this searches cloud.
Yeah, this searches the cloud that is like lock for. I mean, not as good, but lock.
Any deck that is based on cast counts is gonna broke it because it searches Vaan, it searches cloud, it searches lock.
Yep.
I think.
It searches the new Vaan.
It searches Vaan. That's what I'm saying.
Jesus.
It searches the lock. It searches cloud, which are your 3 payoffs for those decks. And it can also search random stuff like Bismarck or I don't know, dude. It's if you want to run like a 1/5 CP Bards and I don't know what that deck.
All right. Fuck this card. All right, let's go to the next one. Tiamat, 4 CP 8k. If you have 7 or more wing characters, he can't be chosen by summons or abilities. And then if Tiamat's dealt it gets both of these abilities. It can't be chosen, and also if it's dealt damage by opponent summons or abilities, it becomes 0. So it prevents, demon board wipe and stuff like that from hitting it. Actually, well, I'll read the rest of the card first. So when Tiamat enters the field, choose one character of cost 5 or more that the opponent controls, break it. I guess really quick ruling question. If Demon kills your other wind characters, I assume Tiamat still doesn't take the damage, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah, okay.
it was already dealt.
Yeah, I figured. There's also a Soapfo forward, so we're going to be talking about most of the Soapfo forwards at the end with the Dark Searcher for it. Yeah, I guess the fact that it's searchable off of Jack Garland is the only reason that I think that it's relevant. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, the fact that it's 5 or more feels really bad, but it is sticky. So
the problem is that this card reads really good.
yeah.
The problem is this is not what Mono Wind is trying to do, and the fact that it loses 2 out of 3 of its abilities if you're not on Mono Wind.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of bad because I really like the choose one character of cost 5 or more, break it when it enters, so you can just break a Tyro, right? On entry, just go Jack into this and break a Tyro. But then you have a blank forward if you're not playing Mono Wind. And Mono Wind doesn't want to do this.
Yeah.
Right? That's not what Wind wants to do. If it costs 5, it would be funny because if it costs 5, you could go and run one of these with the new Pandemonium, right? And search it when you. But the fact that it costs 4 and it doesn't untap anything, I think this card is kind of dead on arrival, which is a shame because it's an interesting new way of trying to play Mono Wind that's not play 20 cards a turn. I just don't think it's powerful enough, in my opinion.
Yeah. What do you think, Pat?
No, that was my thoughts exactly. It's not doing what Mono Wind is doing, and I get why they did it. Like the whole cycle of the bosses, the chaos bosses are all like focusing on like the mono element kind of thing. But yeah, it's not really doing what Wind does.
Yeah. I guess the question I had, so before Storm became like the main way to play Wind, again, because I started playing more recently, was Wind more like mid-rangey like this, or
Wind was always relegated to a secondary color.
Okay.
The reasons you played Wind before was to play Zidane, to play Stola, and to play certain activate effects, so you could do like more mid-range stuff. But even like Mono Wind just did not exist before high cast count matters cards existed. So the answer to that is no.
Okay.
That's Wind's like identity.
Okay. All right. I don't think we have too much more to say about this then. Let's go on to one of my favorite cards of the set, Princess Goblin. So 3 CP backup. She's a goblin, WAF character. When Princess Goblin enters the field, you can search for one card name Warrior of Light or one card name Princess Sarah and add it to your hand. I don't even know, is Princess Goblin from specifically WAF, or I don't know why she searches these 2 cards specifically.
I have no idea. I
don't even know what this character is.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But that is the most insane 2 card names that you could choose. So I think there's a couple really funny implications. So first, 1 CP Goblin now searches for 2 off-color backups. So like there's a argument to be playing the 1 CP Goblin in rainbow decks, which I was already like I was messing around with. I have a video on my YouTube channel, where I played Realm Wall, for example, and this slot's like perfectly in that. Like this is a huge upgrade for that deck. Like, but even in general, like in a rainbow deck that's not playing goblins, just having like 3 of this card, it searches the best card in your deck or the best color fixing backup in your deck, right? Like, I think the biggest problem with this card is that it's a wind card, and a lot of the rainbow decks were trying to, like, Princess Sarah used to be your wind card in a lot of those decks. I know some of like the Cecil or like the Radio Wall decks Some of them were playing things like Sid Polendina and Zidane to get your wind count a little higher. Or I guess Zidane and Sid Polendina were like the reasons to be playing more wind cards. And so you would basically play this instead of Sid Polendina. It searches wall instead of all of your Cat 4 cards. But also, again, searches Princess Sarah. So, this is like one of the most exciting cards for me because 4-color, rainbow piles are like exactly my shit. So, what do you two think?
I think that whoever, like, I'm going to say the negative first. For this artwork, it needed to be like a couple of pixels to the right. I don't know what.
I think that makes it funnier.
I think if we didn't get a card that we were going to talk about in water, which is Lena, this card would be a shoo-in for replacing Sid Polendina in those decks because it's just insane. However, in certain decks, we're more encouraged to now run King Tycoon as our win, which kind of like makes her a little. But I think she's still really strong. I really like this card.
Yeah, I've seen people play King Tycoon and Princess Goblin.
Those people are greedy.
Personally, I like those cards, or I like that backup line if you're playing a cast focus, like a Lulu deck, for example. Like a Rainbow Lulu deck, I think appreciates having both of those.
I think if you say, okay, my fourth color is fire instead of wind, that's fine, right? So you make your Princess Sarah fire, and then just say, I'm not gonna like go into Bosch, I'm not gonna go into anything relevant. If you say, okay, instead of wind being my minor color, now it's fire, for sure that's that, and that might be the way, right? Because these are very strong backups, very strong. So. This is just a good card. I have no idea why this card exists. I've called Princess Goblin out of all things. Why does it search these two cards?
Dude, I feel like I gotta play this game.
Yeah, I'm not in the. I don't know enough about the lore, but I'm glad this card exists.
Yeah. What do you think, Pat?
Nothing to add. You guys got everything. This is a good card.
Yeah.
This is just
Yeah, no.
I'm upset that I had a Japanese full art of the old Princess Goblin, and I'm upset that this is overtaken.
No, I like Princess Goblin, the fire one is obviously like way like it's the choice for any deck that's not playing wind but is playing Goblin. Like mono fire, right?
If you're playing mono fire, you're 100% playing the old Princess Goblin. There's absolutely no reason not to be playing the.
Yeah, exactly. Again, like I said, the big thing that this is an upgrade for, like if we're talking specifically about goblins, is the rainbow goblin deck, or the rainbow monster deck.
Yes. And I think one thing that you didn't mention, but this is also searchable by a water card, which is Verena.
Oh yes, you're right. I forgot to mention that.
So now Wind Water has a ton of backup searchers. We're talking like Norstalin, we're talking Buddy, we're talking the princesses, we're talking this
Penelo.
So it's like pick your poison.
Like, can we get good water wind cards to actually put those backups in?
Brother, you're like getting into personal territory there. Okay? Wind Water is my deck. That's what got me all the way to the end, and the fact that it's not a thing, it's making me depressed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, all right. So enough to say about this card. Super excited for this. Was my favorite backup until we got the full spoiler list. So so let's talk about Viera, one of the other really cool backups this set. So it's a multiplayable 3CP standard unit. When Viera enters the field, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You add one from them to your hand and put the other to the bottom. She also has a tap for 1 and do the same thing. So the immediate comparison is obviously Loporrit. The big thing that this, and we'll also talk about Astrologian later, the big thing that these don't do, that Loporrit does, is it doesn't unbrick your hand, right? You're only looking at the 2 cards. I think that's what Loporrit probably should have been worded to. I don't know why they let you, like, put any card from your hand to the bottom with Loperate. Like this is a way more balanced card in my opinion. I like this card a lot. So yeah, I mean, just solid. Like there's not too much to say about it other than the comparison to Loperate for me.
I agree. I think it's a little more comparable also to Reeve.
Yes. Yeah.
The lightning backup that looks at 3 and adds 1. Now he has EX, which pushes them over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not multiplayable, and he costs 4.
And he can't repeat. Or sorry, he can't like tap.
He can't break himself, yeah. Right? He can't make room. I love this design.
Yeah.
Love it. I think we need to make. So I'm always very big into the reason I stopped playing Magic is mana-based issues.
Yep.
And then Final Fantasy, gets rid of that by letting you discard cards for stuff. And now they're basically making their mana bases or their CP base in this case pretty standardized, where all your backups kind of like do the same thing and they like draw you into cards. They search for it. So if we're moving into this, where like the gameplay is focused on who plays the better cards at the better time instead of who got their resources first because you got lucky drawing them, right? I like it. So this type of card, I want to see way more of. I think every color should have this.
Yeah, I wanted to see this in every element.
Yeah, for sure. I thought it was going to be a cycle. I was very
excited.
Oh my god, please, fire. And
no. Please, ice, for the love of God.
Oh, or ice, yeah, please, ice, please. No, it's really good. I like it.
Yeah.
So I like that these kind of effects are being put on backups.
Yep.
I think if the same thing was a summon, it wouldn't be nearly as good.
Oh, God,
the fact that it builds your resources on top of that. Like in Magic, if we're going to the Magic example, like this is similar to cards like the cantrips in Magic, right? Like the Ponder, Preordain, Brainstorm, like those kind of cards are equivalent to summons in this game, right? Like they're like a spell that you cast, but you can't discard those cards for mana in those games. Like the fact that this does that and builds your resources.
You can discard it for force, but anyways.
Oh, right. But discard for But
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the fact that like these effects are being put on backups and that sort of like ties into the identity of this game. Like I really like that.
Yeah. The one thing that's a little weird for me is that the tap effect is 1 CP. I'm not saying it should cost 2 instead, but the cards that are similar to this that we've seen, like Loperate and Miner is, I mean a little different but kind of similar. Where it's just kind of like the tap effect is a late game outlet for your dead cards that you draw, right? I mean, it feels a little bad pitching a card to do the tap effect. You probably will still do it. But I'm just surprised. Like for me, it's more just surprising that they made the effect weaker and then gave it a 1 CP tap effect instead of like I just when I saw that they were doing this type of card for more than just water, I expected it to be like a 2 CP tap.
No, I think if because, and I think you said it yourself, because cards like Loperate have such a stronger effect in which you not only see 2 cards, you can draw those 2 cards instead of choosing one of them. The effect on entry is weaker, therefore they made the tap effect stronger. But one.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like I expected the effect to be stronger, right? Like imagine if this said like top 3 cards and then you had to pay 2. I mean, obviously it'd be significantly better, right? But I mean, it'd still be worse than Loperate probably, right? Because it doesn't unbrick you still.
That would be the 1 CP Chocobo on a backup, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, you're right.
It's not a character. And you don't. It's so important. You don't reveal.
And it's non-EX.
Yeah, you don't look. You look. You don't reveal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's balanced. I think they balance a weaker on entry with a lower cost effect, and I'm happy they did. It's very good. It doesn't, like you say, it doesn't unbreak your hand, but you're playing this basically as it's a 1 CP backup.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing. You're playing it as a CP backup. So. Very happy for decks that don't have. So these type of cards for decks that don't have. I know we're talking a lot about a very generic backup, but you gotta understand there are decks and there are archetypes in which you can't search your key cards. So I give a random example.
I've played enough Dragoons, yeah.
Let me give you an example. I was gimmick, like I had a gimmicky like ice wind warp deck, and I have no way to search Vayne. No way.
Yeah.
To search him. So I depend on effects like these to get me closer to Vayne.
Yep.
So that the more of these we have, the more you don't have to put a bunch of searchers, just dig through your deck.
Yeah. So. I think just in general, like the more backups that we have that increase hand quality, the better. Like I think that's just healthier for the game. It's one of the reasons, I mean, again, we're kind of talking a lot, like you said, about a general backup, but I think this is more getting into like the general health of the game. Yeah. Like I like cards that increase hand quality. It's one of the reasons that I don't really, I mean, I play it, but I don't really like the Fire Winzidane, for example, because it's does the exact opposite, right? It specifically decreases your opponent's hand quality. And not in the same way that like discard does, right? Because it does it more often, but like your opponent's drawing random cards. You know, I prefer playing with cards like this, you know, Viera, where it, you know, I like having more cards that increase your hand quality in the card pool in general, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. Let's go on to Summoner. This is the last wind card we'll talk about, I think. Or, oh wait, no, we added more. Sorry. I think we added more, right?
3 more.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so Summoner is again, multiplayable Cat 14 standard unit. So it's a 4 CP 5k. Ooh. But when Summoner enters the field, you search for a wind summon. And when you cast a summon, it gains plus 2k, whatever. That's flavor text. So the big thing is that this searches Asura, right? Like, this is the only text that I think, like, this is the only line that I think matters, right? I think it also, like, okay, it's also important to search your chocobos and stuff, but you already have Azana, right? Like, Asura is the kind of unsearchable wind summon that is needed for most of your, storm turns, right? That said, I mean, I don't know, I don't play wind, so I don't know how often you just brick on not drawing Asura.
Right.
So I don't know how irrelevant that will be, but I think if there's one place that this sees play, it's because it searches Asura.
I agree. I'll say it here. I was very surprised on the discussion that happened and stuff when this card was revealed, where people were like immediately dismissing it and like saying, "Oh, this is just like the 4 CP hope." And I just said, so I'm not saying that this card is the make or break or win, or that it's even gonna be played, but I'm surprised. I would be surprised if people don't even test it, because comparing it to Hope is the most obtuse thing I've ever heard in my life. Comparing a card that searches a specific named summon that is garbage most of the time to a card that can search any wind summon. And like you said, the key summons are Asura, they're Chocobo, they're Pandemonium now.
Oh, duh, yeah.
This card gives you the options to search all of those. Again, I'm not saying it's going to be played. That's not what I'm saying. But comparing it to an old card, slightly upgraded. It's not slightly upgraded. It searches anything. Like, come on. Like, it's ridiculous to dismiss this card because the text kind of looks like an old card. No, this is a multiplayable unit that gets you exactly the summon you need at the right time. And like you said, most of the time, wind decks... sorry, I keep having to move my mouse or there's like darkens. This searches the exact summon you need instead of you having to hope to draw into it, right? Like Asura is a card that you have to draw into it. You can't search it. You draw into it. You have to enable your plays by thinning your deck and drawing into it. And this card says, I'm going to get you, and I'm going to get you that card. And also, I increase your cast count as well by searching it.
Yeah.
So,
though it is 4 CP, so
it is 4 CP, correct. That's why I'm saying probably doesn't see play.
Yeah.
But if I was a mono wind player or I was an ice wind player or whatever, I would at least sleeve this card up and test it. And before entirely dismissing it. I was very surprised at the lack of foresight that a lot of people had, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, all right. Pat,
what are we searching with this? Come on, you're the
yeah, what stupid wind summon are we searching?
Harry with this.
I'm searching the 1-mana Chocobo so I can enable more Une shenanigans. But no, I'm just saying I wouldn't play this in that deck. But I do agree it's a lot stronger than it looks. Have we had a lot of summon searchers before?
Not in Wind.
Yeah, no, because I mean, when I think of summon searchers, I'm thinking like the new Rydia backup, right? That's like the first thing I think of.
I mean, you got. There's a couple of things. You got the new Terra. You got Garnet. No, not Garnet. There's like a 3 CP Garnet that searches out 1 CP.
Yeah.
There is summon search, but it's usually pretty restricted. The fact that this says, all right, you can search any wind summon, it's still restricted, but it opens up more possibilities. Like even dumb stuff like you can like search one of the Alexander that becomes free if you search you play a wind forward, and this basically reads break a monster and draw a card, or break what's the other effect on Alexander? Break a 5
CP or more forward. Break a
Oh.
monster, draw a card, or break a high cost forward. I forget.
Yeah, so that's where people were comparing to Hope, where like, oh, Hope does the same thing. He searches that Alexander and plays it for free. It's like, yeah, but this also searches Asura. Like, what are you? Why are we talking about Hope?
All right. Yeah, I guess. Is there much else to say, I guess, before moving on?
Nah, not particularly, but I just wanted to get that.
Fair enough. All right. So we have Sid 2, 4 CP engineer backup. Let's go. So when
support, let's go.
When Sid 2 enters the field, search for a card with a warp. And then you can tap, sack, choose a card that's removed from the game, and remove a warp counter. But you can only do it during your turn, or otherwise it'd be very silly. Sack this to remove a warp counter from Theodore on your opponent's turn or something like that would be very silly. So yeah, I mean, I guess the main thing is that the search is Vaan, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the wind warp guy.
Theodore. Wait, dude, if this search Vayne, I would be.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, this does not search
warp.
Vayne. Vayne does not have warp. So this searches the other cards that Vayne is doing.
So that's what I was gonna say. If this said search a card with warp in its text, I would be like tier 0. Let's go.
Yeah.
So warp is a pretty decently weak mechanic so far, and this is the type of support that it needs to eventually become a good card or a good archetype. This searches any warp card of any color, and the fact that it also can break itself to enable your game plan, right? Like if you're a greedy person, you can go sit turn 1, warp Theodore, and then play Theodore turn 2. So it's kind of like a pseudo Vayne in that sense. It also enables you. I have a pet deck that's a goal-based warp deck.
Yep.
The one that
Archfiends.
Yeah, Archfiends. And the fact that this card makes it so I can play I literally can play 2 goal-based or 1 goal-based instead of 3. Right? I don't want to see extra goal-based. And I usually search them with Aldo or Sid Polendina. And now this card also searches him, so it's like, well, maybe I can just cut down on the goal base, right? I just run 1 goal base or 2 goal base and just always have the backup to search him. And then I have the lightning backup to search Vayne, Gramis. So that deck now has a very consistent turn 1 goal base. you have literally 9 backups that search you into Gold Best. You have 3 Sid, 3 if you put 3 Sid, 3 Aldo, 3 Sid, Palandina. Like, there's no way you don't get Gold Best turn 1. Right? There's no world in which you don't get Gold Best turn 1. So for people who like that deck, I think this card is a home run.
Yeah, I think this goes straight into Archfiends, for sure.
And I also have a pet, I'm building like an Icewind deck with the new Kyros and stuff. That's kind of funny, but that's just more meme. But this card like just enables some funny things. I like it.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Pat?
I haven't played too much with warp stuff, but the first thing I thought of when I saw this was just like a turn 2 Theodore, like sneaking that in.
Yep.
Just seems really good because Theodore is like the best warp card I could think of.
Yeah.
So,
the Icewind warp deck that's doing like the Vayne deck that's not playing Archfiends is the one that's going like Theodore and threatening Theodore turn 2 basically, and this lets you do that, but like without necessarily having Vayne. Like this lets you do that more consistently.
Yeah.
If you're committing to Icewind, right, and you're like, I'm always gonna play Theodore as soon as possible. If you have 4 Isaeos, the one that searches ice forwards, and 4 of these, three of
yeah.
You're guaranteed at Theodore warp turn 1, basically.
Yeah, unless you're me, and then you just don't draw it.
Have you tried not being bad? No, I'm excited. I want more of this support because I think they were very careful with warp. Because it was a strong mechanic in Magic when we had suspend.
Yeah. Well, and I mean they've made it very clear that they don't want to print anything that shouldn't be like that. They only want to be warped. They always print with like some stupid cast cost. Like you're never paying 9 for Theodore, right?
Right. And then, for example, like I like the design of. We didn't talk about it, but like Ice Kyros. Ice Kyros says, for 1 ice, warp 1, and then when he or any warp enters your field, you don't free something. I think that's the direction they have to take. Cheap, quick warp that rewards you for warping, but it's still slow, right? You're still waiting a whole turn.
Yeah,
but
because the only time suspend, I mean, we're getting off Final Fantasy a little bit, but Pat, the only time suspend is ever seen play, as far as I know, right, is when you're cheating it in. I mean, aside from like limited and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, you mean like the rhinos, crashing footfalls. I mean, yeah. So those are being cheated in. They're really only the like you see Rift Bolt, which is a lightning bolt.
Oh yeah.
On suspend. But yeah, you don't really see suspend otherwise.
Yeah, for kind of the same reason that you don't see like the random warp cards being played unless they're like Theodore. Like game warping kind of. So, all right. One of the only times we'll be talking about warp, I think. This set review. So, all right. And then do we have another? Yes, we have 2 more cards to talk about. So we're gonna talk about Rikku. 2-speed EX, 5K. ETB, reveal top card of your deck. If it's a win card, add it to your hand. So she's a cantrip, basically. She's an EX draw card. Not bad. Obviously, you don't play this outside of Mono Wind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one who included this, so.
No, I just put this because I think every Mono Wind deck will run at least 1 or 2 of these. Okay. Because it is a free cast, quote unquote. With EX, one of the problems with Mono Wind is that it's very, very lacking on EX. Even like basic like draw card EXs. The fact that this enables you to have a free cast and also EX draw card. The damage 3 is like kind of cute, right? It's a 7 CP. It's a 7K forward for 2. It's kind of nice, but I would definitely always consider this card if I'm going Mono Wind. Just because I always get to draw a card. I always get to EX into draw a card potentially. My only beef with it is that this is starting, and there's a couple of other cards where it's starting a cycle where there's WAF cards, but they don't include their original title. So this not only it's not a 10 card, it's also not a guardian or anything. It's a treasure hunter. So
yeah,
they've done that in the past. There's a Penelo that's FFTA2, but not FF12.
Oh yeah, that's I mean, I can see that because you could say that that's the Penelo from that game, but the whole point of WAF is that they're characters from other games, right? So I don't know. I'm like iffy about that.
Well, usually when they do that, they'll have like parentheses, right? Like Sarah, Mobius, or
that's fair. That's fair. I think it's kind of cute. Like it's also a Rikku, so like if you're like a meme lord like Pat, you can be like, oh, I can build a mono win that has this Rikku, and then place the brother from Opus 20 that if you have a Rikku, it untaps your backups, or something like that. There's a brother that says if you have a Rikku, he gains 2k power and untaps all your backups.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, you can meme with that, I guess.
Okay.
The fact that I cannot search this off brother is kind of the backup brother is kind of like puts me off because I think that was a cute line for Mono Wind where you could put buddy and brother and just go buddy brother this and have backup and a free cast in your hand. That's what puts me off a little bit, but I think it's interesting enough to.
I guess the one thing that I'm worried about with this card is we were just talking when we were talking about the Sky Pirates. Wind has so many good cards to be playing. Like you have to compare this to Vaan, right? Like a 0 CP draw card. I don't know. I feel like Wind just has too many good cards to be playing this card. I might be wrong though.
I kind of agree, but I think it sounds stupid, but I think the EX is what kind of pushes it a little bit because it's like, I kind of have a if I'm losing, I can kind of draw a card once in a while. I don't know. It might not see play, but I would test it if I was a mono win player.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, and I think the last card to talk about is Niini, 1 CP wind card forward, 3k. But when she ETBs, look at the top card of your deck. You can place it on the bottom if you want, and if you're on cast 3, she also draws a card. So. Just a 1 CP cantrip that's on a creature, pretty good.
Very good.
Yeah.
No, generic. I don't have anything to say about this. This is just a 1 CP cantrip that also kind of like you can also like not draw the card that you reveal.
Yep.
Right. So, I would be very surprised if we don't see this.
Yeah, I've play tested against this card, and it seems good on your combo turns. Like it's another one of those. I feel like with most of these wind cards that we've talked about, it's just like, generically good wind cards that will probably end up seeing play in, the cast decks. I guess my only thing to say about this is that I wish we got more cards that were in wind that weren't as cast focused, because I feel like almost every single card that we've talked about so far in Wind is like... we talked about Princess Goblin and Sid 2. I guess Viera also is just like a generically good Wind card, but, Oh, and I guess Princess Sarah. All right, okay, we got a couple.
No, I agree, but this is also like searchable off of the 3 CP Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, but it's
still skin. Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, if this doesn't see play, I would eat a crow because it's just there's no reason not to play this card.
Would you play this? So I know Earth Wind plays the Suzukiza. Again, I know none of us are really Wind cast players, but would you play this over Suzukiza? Or I guess Suzukiza's your Earth CP that you search, right? So never mind.
Yeah, I don't think in Earth Wind, I don't think you're like, I think you mentioned it where cast count is not as relevant in some of those decks. Maybe not. I think I'd stick to Suzukiza.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like this is your other win target basically for Stiltskin. That's not Luso.
Basically, yeah, you can play like 2 Lusos, one of these.
Yeah.
be very happy. But honestly, you also have Ritz. So again, I
Yeah.
don't know.
All right. Anything else to say about this card?
We can move on to like more interesting elements.